The world watched in disbelief as Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. This act of aggression shattered decades of relative peace in Europe. It sparked the largest conflict on the continent since World War II. The invasion has also unleashed a humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced and countless lives lost. The conflict has tested the resolve of Western alliances and revealed the limits of international institutions. The war in Ukraine is far from over. The conflict in Ukraine is characterized by dynamic shifts in territorial control. Initially, Russia aimed for a swift victory, launching offensives on multiple fronts. Russian forces attempted to capture the capital city of Kyiv. They also targeted key cities such as Kharkiv, Mariupol, and Odessa. However, Ukrainian resistance proved fiercer than anticipated. Ukrainian forces, bolstered by Western military aid, managed to slow the Russian advance. They ultimately repelled the assault on Kyiv. As the war progressed, the front lines stabilized in eastern and southern Ukraine. Despite facing setbacks, Russia still occupies a significant portion of Ukrainian territory. According to recent estimates, Russia controls approximately 19% of Ukraine, including Crimea, and parts of the Donbas region occupied since 2014. The conflict has been marked by intense fighting in the Donbas, particularly around the cities of Donetsk and Luhansk. The territorial control in Ukraine remains fluid. Both sides have engaged in offensives and counteroffensives, resulting in incremental gains and losses. The use of artillery, drones, and long-range missiles has become a defining feature of the conflict, leading to widespread destruction and civilian casualties. The battle for territorial control continues to be a focal point of the war in Ukraine. Its outcome will have significant implications for the future of the region. The war in Ukraine has resulted in a staggering loss of life and immense human suffering. While precise figures remain elusive, estimates paint a grim picture of the conflict's devastating toll. As of January 2025, conservative estimates suggest that over 700,000 Russian soldiers have been killed or injured, with an additional 48,000 missing. Ukrainian forces have also suffered heavy losses, with estimates exceeding 400,000 killed or injured and 35,000 missing. These figures underscore the brutality and intensity of the fighting. The civilian population has borne the brunt of the conflict. Thousands of innocent men, women, and children have been caught in the crossfire. The United Nations estimates that over 12,600 civilians have been killed as of December 2024. The true number of civilian casualties is likely much higher, given the difficulty of collecting data in active combat zones. The use of explosive weapons in populated areas has resulted in mass displacement, psychological trauma, and long-term health consequences. The war's impact extends beyond immediate casualties. The collapse of healthcare systems, shortages of essential supplies, and the psychological toll of living under constant threat have exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. Section 4. The Tools of War. The war in Ukraine is characterized by the large-scale deployment of military equipment and technology. Both sides have utilized a wide array of weapon systems, ranging from tanks and artillery to drones and advanced missiles. The conflict has highlighted the importance of military capabilities in modern warfare. Russia, with its larger military, initially held an advantage in terms of equipment. However, Ukraine has received significant military aid from Western countries, bolstering its defenses and enabling it to mount a more effective resistance. The United States alone has provided billions of dollars in military assistance, including anti-tank missiles, drones, and artillery systems. The conflict has also witnessed the widespread use of drones, both for reconnaissance and offensive operations. Drones have proved particularly effective for targeting enemy positions and disrupting supply lines. The use of drones has raised ethical and legal questions, particularly concerning civilian casualties and the potential for escalation. The war in Ukraine has exposed the vulnerabilities of traditional military hardware in the face of modern weaponry. Tanks and armored vehicles, once considered the backbone of ground forces, have proven susceptible to anti-tank missiles and drones. This conflict has underscored the need for militaries to adapt to the changing nature of warfare. Section 5. Uprooted lives. The war in Ukraine has triggered one of the largest refugee crises in recent history. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, seeking safety and refuge both within Ukraine and abroad. The United Nations estimates that over 10 million Ukrainians have been displaced by the conflict, representing nearly a quarter of the pre-war population. The majority of displaced Ukrainians have sought refuge in neighboring countries. Poland in particular has witnessed a massive influx of refugees, with over 1.5 million Ukrainians crossing the border. Other neighboring countries, including Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia, have also received significant numbers of refugees. The international community has responded to the crisis with humanitarian aid and support. The influx of refugees has strained the resources of host countries. Governments, aid organizations, and local communities have faced challenges in providing housing, food, healthcare, and other essential services. The war has also had a significant impact on children, separating families, disrupting education, and exposing them to trauma. The long-term consequences of this displacement remain uncertain.